So this is what we're going to be creating in this video. Now, before you get started, go over to the link in the description so you can download these assets we're going to be using in this video for free. So right here, you will notice I already have this timeline set up in the vertical format. You can go ahead and do that. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a background that you see right here. So this is the first part, and this is just separated. The whole motion graphics right here is separated into 3 different scenes working together. So right now we have this one, this is the first one, and then we have the second one, and then finally we have this third one. So we're going to do that in parts. The first thing we're going to do that is create a background for the first part of this animation. So right here we have this background. Now let me just hide these, and also let me just mute this. So right here you will notice this is the background. So for that we can just simply go over to our effects and drag in this fusion composition. Now for this one I'm going with just 10-second duration. You can also change this, so you can press Ctrl D on the keyboard and this will give you the option to change the duration of the clip. So right now I'm just going to change this to 0 and this one to 10. So hit create and that's it. Sorry, hit change and that's it. So now let's right click and go over to the Fusion page, add in a background, connect this with the media out. All right, so we're just going to keep this at black, but now we're going to add in a text, connect this with the background, and the effect that you will see that was happening in the background, that's what we're going to do right now. So you can just go ahead, type in anything. I'm just going to type in M3, anything you can type in. This doesn't mean anything. You can just go ahead, type in anything. But the thing is, this is good to cover the whole screen, so at least from my perspective. But anyways, now the font that I'm using is Poppins, so you can just go ahead, change this to Poppins and just go over to black. Choose any font that is bold enough to cover at least some part of the screen that is quite visible. So that's the purpose. And now we're going to change the size. So let's go ahead, change the size. Let's increase this. Let's just increase this all the way to 0.5. And now let's first of all move this right here, somewhere around here. Okay, so one more thing we need is to add a blur. So right besides this merge, you can go ahead and add in this blur. Change the blur size all the way to 100. And let's go over to the text once again. And from here, you can go over to the shading. And we're going to go over to 1 frame, create a keyframe, add opacity, then add 0. Let's change this to 0. So this is how it's going to come in. And let's go over to 3, the 3rd frame, and create a keyframe in the layout at center. And then go over to 4, and from here we can just drag this right here. So if you play this now, this is the kind of effect that we will get. Now, of course, you can keep the blur at 50 as well. You can just try and experiment with it. So this time I'm just going to keep this at 50. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention is that in the text, if you go over to shading, you can keep this at 1 at the first frame. You can just keep this at 0.5. So don't go all the way to 1, just keep it somewhere around here because we don't want it to be prominent. We just want it in the background, that's it. And now you can just play around with the blur if you want to, but again, I'm just keeping this at 50. So that's it, this is the only change. And now for this one, this 3D text moving in, let's see how we can create this. So for this one, again, let's drag in our fusion composition and you can just resize it now. And if you press Ctrl and this key on your keyboard, you will be able to cut it. This is a keyboard shortcut. And now just select the rest of it, press backspace and it's gone. So now let's head over to this one, this composition right here. And now we're going to use this text 3D. And with this, go ahead, click on this merge 3D. And while you have this selected, press Ctrl space and search for render 3D. Now let's go ahead, connect this with the media out. And now in the text 3D, let's just type in stop. And the font that I'm using is Poppins. And I'm just keeping it at bold. But of course, you can go ahead, change this. Now go over to the transform. And from here, I'm just going to change this to -20 so that this is somewhere in the background. Because now we're going to work with 3D. We're going to add some other text as well. Using the same, by the way, this same node. So you can just click on it, press Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste. Then connect this with the merge 3D as well. And from here, you can just go over to transform now. Change the Z to -10. So go ahead, change this to -10. and move the Y and the X. You can of course change the Y rotation from here as well, the X rotation from here as well. And also you can go over to shading and then change the color if you want to. And then again, let's press Ctrl V. Make sure everything is unselected right here, but just press Ctrl V and then connect this with the Merge 3D again. And now this time let's change the Y and X to this side. And this time I'm also going to change the Z from here. So let's change this. Anyway, this is up to you. You don't have to do this exactly like how I'm showing you, but this is just to show you that you just place it randomly and that's it. So it's not much of not something very important actually. This is just random. So here we have another stop. Then we can just press Ctrl V again to paste this. Connect this with the Merge 3D. And this time let's bring this down again. Change the Y. And this time let's increase the Z a little bit to somewhere around here. And finally, once again, I'm going to add in this text 3D, connect this, and this time let's move this to this side right here. Again, random placement, that's up to you. Now in the shading, I'm going to change the color a little bit for this one. So let's go with this. And for this one, let's keep this at white. And for this one, let's just go ahead and change this to something like this. So right now we have the text on the screen, all these text, but we do need a little bit more changes. But before we do that, we can just go over to the merge right here. And in the transform, if you use the Z now, you will be able to position this however you want. So this is it. And now let me just double click on it. So if you double click on any of these, it will just be reset back to the default value. So now we're going to start this and let's go all the way to the end, create a keyframe at Z and then at 0 frames, we can just move this in. So somewhere around here, for me, it's 13, but again, it can be different for you. So I'm just going to change this to 13. So this is how it's going to come in. And by the way, I'm going to change this at the end. I'm not going to go all the way to 0. I'm just going to keep this somewhere around here. All right. And now let's go over to the spline. And from here, all you need to do is just select this merge 3D and the Z offset, and then just go ahead, select these keyframes and hit S on the keyboard. All right. So you can do one more thing, which will add some more dynamic look to the animation. So right here where we had this keyframe at 9, we can just move this back at 8. So let's go over, click on this. This is the keyframes panel. So click on this and then from here, just select zoom to fit and then select this merge 3D. So you might need to move this up to see where the merge 3D is. So right here, we have the merge 3D and then let's move this keyframe right here at 8. And then let's go over at 9. And from here, we can go over to the merge 3D again. And from here, we can increase this again. So something like this. And actually at 8, let me just go in like this. All right. So now if you play this, this is how it looks. But we do need to go back to the spline. And from here, what you can do is, let me just select this. So right here, where we have these keyframes, you can just select this one at the end. By the way, this one at the end, which is the second last one. Let's just select this and move this somewhere in, just a little bit in. So this is the kind of animation that you will get now. All right. So we do have the first part done, as you can see in the main timeline. And one more thing I added on top of it was that I had this background overlay. So this is just like a texture. I'm using this as the overlay. And let me just enable the video track. And from here, I'm going to just cut it right here where we have these other fusion compositions. Okay, and one more thing I do is I try to reduce this so that I can see all the compositions easily. All right, so now you need to select this image that we just added and go over to the composite mode and change this to add. That's it. So this will just make the animation look more nicer. All right, now let's move on to the next part. And for this one, let me just check the length of this, Control D. So this is at 221. So we can just drag in another fusion composition right here. And let's go ahead, press Control D and change the duration to 2 and right here at 20. Let's just go with 220. And right click on Open in Fusion page. And now you need to just drag in a background. And I already have some settings done, so let me just paste those settings. So right here, let me just connect this. All right, so these are the settings that you need. So you need to change the type to gradient and go over to the gradient type and change this to radial. And then you need to just go with the white color right here, but just keep it somewhere around here. Now, of course, you can keep this at any color that you want, but just to show you that this is just basic white color. And then right here at this end, I have some gray color right here. So this is it. Just feel free to use any type of color that you want. I'm not giving you the color codes, but again, this is simple. And then right here at offset, you can just play around with it to get this kind of a look. So you can just increase it so that it only covers the edges of the screen. So this will be how we're going to do it. And then we're going to add these lines. So right here, you can drag in the lines, connect this with the background, and here we have the lines right here. So let's go over to the merge and let's go ahead and change the blend to, let's say, 0.4, and then position this right here, somewhere around here. And that's it. All right, so this will just act as the background for the video. And now let's head over to the main timeline, drag in another fusion composition. And for this one, I'm going to change the duration to 122. All right, let's head over to this fusion composition now. And from here, let's go ahead and first of all, add in this background, connect this with the media out and change the alpha to 0 because we don't need the background. This is just so that we know where the frames are. And now let's drag in our text first. So let's go ahead, connect this right here. So I'm just going to type in this. The font that I'm using is again Poppins. And this time I'm going to go with black. And let's go ahead, change the size to 1. And this time I'm also going to change the color to, let's say, somewhere around here. So this would be it. Actually, let me just increase this to, let's say, 1.5. So it's more visible. And now let's go over at 20. So let's go over at 20, create a keyframe, add shading in the opacity. And then at 22, we're just going to change this to 0. And this is up till the point where we're going to zoom in up till this point at 20. And then from 20 to, let's say, at the end, we're just going to move this up. So that's pretty much the idea of how we're going to do the animation. Now let's go ahead and add in our lines too. So let's go ahead, drag this in, and let's move these down somewhere around here. So this is the second part. And let's also go ahead and add in another background and this rectangle. So connect these and finally with the merge node as well. And we're just going to add some blocks. So it's more like squares, small squares. For this, just go ahead and reduce the size of the width and the height somewhere around here. Let me just keep it at the center for now. So let's say somewhere around here. All right, and while you have this background selected, press Control Space and search for duplicate. So with this duplicate, just change the copies all the way to 10. And from here, you can just change the Y and the X, and also go over to jitter and just randomly do this. And of course, go over to the size to change the size for these as well. So somewhere around here. All right. So again, just random settings. You can go ahead with any of them. And also I'm going to go over to 0 and create a keyframe at this center, and we're just going to use this Y to move these up. So let's go all the way to the end and just move these up somewhere around here. So something like this. And also one more thing we need to do is add in a blur node. So you can just go over here and add in this blur node. Let's go ahead, change this to 10, or let's say 15. All right, these look good. Okay, so we need to add in another text, and I'm just going to copy the settings from this text one. Just copy right here, paste right here, connect this right here. And by the way, also with this text one, I'm going to add this blur node and change this to 5, or let's say 10. And by the way, let me just hide this one so you can see this is how it looks. Actually, let's go with 5 so that it's more visible. We just need a subtle effect for blur for this text. And now let's go over to this text, enable this, and I'm just going to type in this. Okay, so now we need to right click over here and click on follower, go over to the modifiers and change the delay to 1. And also let's go ahead, change the order from left to right. And let's go over to transform. And over here at 20, we're going to create a keyframe at this size. So create a keyframe for both X and Y. And then let's go all the way to 30, create keyframes again. And then the one at 20, let's just move this to 0. All right, so one thing you need to keep in mind is that what we did was we copied the text one. So we also need to go over to shading and just remove this from here. So we don't need to change the opacities, just remove those keyframes. Make sure to do that, otherwise just use a new text node, that's it. All right, so this is how it looks. Again, let's go over here and add in this blur, change this to 5, and I'm going to add another text node, connect this with the merge 4, and let's just type in some subheading or something. And the font that I'm using, again, Poppins. Let's just move this down around here somewhere. And also let's change this to, let's say, 0.7 or something. All right, so for this one, let's again change the color to black. Right click, create this follower node, and then from here, let's go over to 20. And in the modifiers, again, we're going to do the same thing, delay at 1, order from left to right. And then in the transform, go over to 20, do the same thing that we did before, create keyframes right here, but this time let's go over to 25 and create these keyframes right here. And then at 20, let's just change them to 0 in the X and Y. So this is it. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and add in this transform node at the end. Go over to 0, create a keyframe at size, and then go all the way to 20 and zoom this in to, let's say, 1.2. Okay, let's go with 1.5. So zoom in up till 1.5, up till 20, and then let's go all the way to the end. Actually, at 20, also make sure you have the key transform node selected and press and create a keyframe at center right here, and then go all the way to the end and just move this up. Something like this. Okay, so make sure you go over to playback and change this to quarter if you're experiencing some slowdown in the animation. But otherwise, if you don't have that problem, you don't need to do anything. Now the next thing is go over to spline, and from here just select your transform node. So this is the transform node, select this, and right here where we had this size, so first of all let's select this size, select these keyframes, hit S on the keyboard, zoom this in, and then just slightly move this, and then select this one, this displacement, select these keyframes, hit S on the keyboard, and do the same thing. So that's it. You can see how smooth the animation is now. So we have this second scene done as well. This is how the whole thing looks at the moment. And now we also need to add in this one. So let me just show you. We have these. And of course, there are some transitions in between them, but we're going to do that at the end. Right now, just focus on this part right here. All right, so for this, let's just drag in this fusion composition. And you can place it randomly somewhere around here and then go all the way to the end and just create a cut, and that's it. Now we have this fusion composition added in. Let's go over to this one. And from here, what we can do is we're going to do some 3D. So let's go ahead, add in these images. Image 1, image 2, image 3, and image 4. And for each of them, let's go ahead, add in this image plane 3D. And finally, select this one and then click on this merge 3D. And now you can connect all of these with the merge 3D. And click on merge 3D, press Control space and search for render 3D, and then connect this with the media out. So now we just need to position them. So I'm going to quickly do that. Okay, so I've done some basic positioning, but I would recommend you to use this Z axis as well, because this will give that 3D feel when we animate this. So what I mean by that is, first of all, let's select this one, let's say this image, and then let's use the Z to move this up and down somewhere around here. And then do the same thing for this one. Let's just move this in the back, move this up around here somewhere. And now for this one, this third image, let's increase this, move this up around here. And finally for this image as well, let's just change this. Let's decrease this and move this to the side. So something like this. And now we're going to add in some text. So use this text 3D, connect this with the merge as well. Again, the font that I'm using is going to be Poppins. And this time let's go with regular, decrease the size from here. And also make sure to click on this edge anchor to this side, to the left side. And you can go over to the transform and move this from the Z, the X and the Y right here. So let me just decrease this somewhere around here. And finally, I'm just going to copy this and unselect and click on, and then press Control V to paste, and then just connect this. And let me just type in, change the color. So just to add some dynamic look to it. And also we can change this to, let's say, bold. So once you have everything done, while you have this render 3D, click on this blur, and we're going to just blur all of these to, let's say, 20. But we don't need to blur the text. So what we can do is just add in this little rectangle mask and connect this with the blur. And then right here, we can just decrease the height, move this right here, and just click on invert, and that's it. All right, perfect. All right, so now let's go over to the merge, and from here, go over to all the way to the end, and you can just create a keyframe right here at Y in the translation, and then go over to 0, and from here you can just move these down like this. So now if you play this, you will get this nice looking animation. But go over to spline, and from here click on this merge 3D, select your keyframes, hit S on the keyboard, but this time select this keyframe at the end, and then just move this in up till this point. So this is how it will look. All right, perfect. And we can go over to the blur, and from here we can just go over at 20, create a keyframe at this blur size that we created at 20, and then go all the way to, let's say, 15, and just change this to 0 for now, because we don't need to blur this throughout. We need an effect like this. So first the focus is on the images, and then the focus shifts on the text that we have. So that's the basic idea. So we have these done. So let me just show you how it looks like now. So here we go. This is how the whole thing looks now. This is how the whole thing looks now. And now we're going to add in these transitions. So right here, this is going to be very simple, honestly. So this transition right here is quite simple. All you need to do is just add in this fusion composition. And by the way, this is going to be at 3 seconds. That's it. 3 milliseconds actually. It's going to be 3 milliseconds. So press Ctrl D and you can change the duration to 3. That's it. That's all we need. Now right click, go over to Open in Fusion page, add in this background, connect this with the media out. So right here at 0, let's just create a keyframe. Actually, first let's change the background color to white. Create a keyframe, add this color and everything will be selected. Go over to 1, change this to red. And then at the second keyframe, you can just change this back to 0. And also change the color to black. So this is how it will look. And now if you play this, here you will see, this is how the animation looks. So nice transition, very subtle, but works. All right, now for the second animation that we have right here. So, and for this one, the duration is going to be at 8 seconds. So let's just drag this in. Drag in this fusion composition, change this to 8 milliseconds. So here we have this. Right click, open in Fusion page, do the same thing we did before, add in a background, connect this, change this to white, create keyframes right here. Okay, so not at 3. Make sure to create keyframes at 0. All right, so let's go over at 2, create a keyframe. Actually, let's just change the alpha, and also let's change this color to black. So from 0 to 2, this is how it will look. And then at 3, we're going to move this down again. And this one, let's just move this up a little bit. And then at 6, we're going to just move this back to 1. And at 7, we can just move this back to 0, this alpha to 0. And that's it. So if you look at this now. All right, so we do need to make sure that we're going to add this in right where we have this text coming in. So right here, we need to add this in. So let's just move this right here. Even back. So something like this. And from here, we can just move this one right here as well. This composition, we can just adjust this. So this is how it will look. And then at the end, you can just decrease this. So this is how it will look. Or what you can do is you can just leave this right here and then increase this from here. That's also something you can do. All right. And finally, we're going to add our sound effects. So this transition 1, let's add this in right here. So I just positioned it according to how it works with the transition. You can just drag this in right where this starts. So right here at 1. And then for the second one, you can also drag this in. And right here where we have this fusion, you can just cut this right here up to this point, and that's it. This is how it will be. So now if we play this with the sound, all right, this was it for this video. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one.